What's up, everybody? Welcome to Move the Sticks. DJ and Rhett with you. Bucky is traveling back from London. Long couple weeks there for Buck, going back and forth with the Jags being over there in London. But Rhett, it's great to see your face, and I can't help but notice, as an Indiana Hoosier, you're still smiling.
It's hard not to be, buddy. Hoosiers are a wagon. They're rocking and rolling. Coach Cignetti's got them going. I mean, just absolutely dominated Nebraska in Bloomington this week. Game day's coming to Bloomington this week. My Big Ten Network crew is going to be on the call for the game. A lot of fun with this one, and enjoying it. Probably a lot more than Bucky has been enjoying his back and forth to and from London. But like his trips, the NFL's London trips are over as well, and now we'll push forward to Munich here in a couple weeks, and then we had some good ones back stateside here this week as well.
Yeah, that's what we're going to do. We're going to jump into those games. We'll get to that Jags game. Drake May showing some good things there in Jacksonville, getting a much-needed win. But let's start with these big three games here, starting with Detroit and Minnesota. Man, what a great game. Got to see a lot of this. This is the beauty of having a Monday night Charger game. I'm here in Arizona, but got a chance to watch Sunday games, which was fantastic. And that was arguably the game of the day. And I'll give you the floor on this one first, Rhett, before I get to what I want to talk about, because I know you were struck by just how dang similar these two teams were.
I mean, it's uncanny when you look at it, like in so many different categories, right? I mean, like total amount of plays run were within 4 of each other. First downs were within 2 of each other. I mean, like the average yards per play, they were making similar gains, like on every play on average for the most part. I mean, they threw and ran the ball with similar balance as well. The explosive plays were even very similar. So I felt like in a game like this, DJ, you really had to like kind of go into the margins a little bit, right? And try to find, some of those hidden yards, some of those hidden things that can, allow somebody to gain extra yards. And Jahmyr Gibbs, who you're seeing on your screen right here, was a big piece of those hidden yards because, I mean, obviously, like his speed, his explosiveness, he's always capable, to break one. But he makes guys miss so often. In fact, made 8 guys miss in this game. Like, you want to talk about turning a 6-yard gain into 16. The play he made on the 45-yard touchdown run on the safety, my goodness, at full speed, right, DJ, and did not lose speed at all coming in and out of that break and that juke that he made. I mean, he led all runners with the football in forced missed tackles this week, according to PFF, with 8. So, I mean, he's such a big piece of that offense. And when you have that kind of fire and ice, right, with David Montgomery providing that physical element, and then Gibbs just able to juke you out of your socks and go the distance at any point. They have so many answers to beat you on offense. It's fun to watch.
Hey, no question. And, look, it was interesting to see what they were going to do with Aiden Hutchinson not being there. Looked like they tried to send more bodies and use kind of a win by numbers approach. I thought Minnesota, for the most part, did a good job of holding up protection-wise. Made some big plays. I know there's a couple throws that Sam would like to have back. More than anything else on the Viking side of things, they've got to get rid of these pre-snap penalties, man. Just shooting themselves in the foot with just misalignments more than anything else. That's easily correctable. They are going to have times where, as aggressive as they are defensively, when other teams have a quarterback-receiver combination that are in sync and in rhythm, I saw it against this defense last year with Herbert and Keenan Allen, where Keenan caught a bazillion balls, and it was Amon-Ra St. Brown with Jared Goff in this one. When they can pick you up, when you send those zero looks, you've got one guy that can win. It's got to be something that you're on the same page as the quarterback, and that's what they had there with Detroit. And I know this is going to be the main talking point coming out of this game. Jared Goff is, he should be at the forefront of the MVP discussion. I don't know that there's a quarterback who looks like he's more calm and poised and just, I would say, just locked in. I mean, he is in a comfort zone in this offense, even more so than when he was at his zenith with McVay and the Rams.
Zenith. I love it. Great pull on that one. I mean, yeah, look, the guy goes, perfect in the first half, right? 12 of 12, ends up with 88 completion percentage. By the way, on the flip side, Sam Darnold, 81% completion
really good
in this game. Like, they were both, I mean, outside of the turnover for Sam, I mean, really, really good stuff there. 2 more things on that front. On defense, you mentioned how are they going to replace Aiden Hutchinson? We talked about that a little bit, you and I, last week, right? On some of the guys that, kind of filled in that last game that Hutchinson got hurt. And I thought it was those guys that kind of showed up in a big way. Josh Pascal had a sack in this game. And then the guy who literally ended the game was one of the guys who received more reps out on the edge when Hutch got hurt. It was Trevor Nowaski, right? The guy who was
Yep.
kind of listed as a linebacker. They push him out to the edge, and he has that last sack on Sam Darnold. So, maybe it's not sustainable to kind of go by committee and try to get that kind of production, all year long. But right now, Dan Campbell's got that group rolling.
Yeah, both these teams though 5-1. Looking forward to seeing they're going to see each other in the postseason. Man, this
Oh, yeah.
is these are two of the better teams in the NFC. I think that was plain to see there. Let's get to the next game here. Another one with two teams that are going to be playoff teams, and that's Houston and Green Bay. I'll start us off here on the Green Bay side of things. Defensively, what they did to CJ Stroud, I mean, it was suffocating what they did. And it was not only with the back end, but I watched all their pressures, watched what they were doing up front. Got a lot of athletes up there. Rashawn Gary can win right now. I was excited to see how they're using Edgerrin Cooper, who can play some on the edge, can play off the ball. He's another one who's got legit like low 4.5 speed. They can win with penetration inside. They time up blitzes well. They were excellent in this game up front against a Houston offense that they couldn't get rolling, man. They just had nothing going in the pass game. And I know you peeked at the coverage a little bit there, Rhett. But I was impressed what I saw with their defensive front, just how athletic they were.
I think it goes hand in hand, right? We talk about that all the time, that connection. And I think that coverage certainly benefited from having CJ Stroud under duress a bunch. Felt like they kind of took advantage of Juice Scruggs at center and Kenyon Green at left guard, quite a bit there to kind of crumble that pocket on CJ a number of times here, where I'm sure he had seen something he liked. And there are a couple plays, and I really looked at Tank Dell, who didn't have a catch in this game, to see what was going on there, where Tank kind of got open. But even before CJ could start to think about pulling the trigger that way, he was getting flushed out of the pocket, or he was getting pressure, and so that just made things so much more difficult. I mean, how many times? This is probably the only time in CJ Stroud's career that he did not have a single receiver over 30 yards receiving in a game. That's what happens when you throw for less than 100, I suppose. But yeah, so as far as Tank Dell went, it didn't allow, his first target should have been a touchdown catch. Actually dropped one on a scramble drill. It was a hard one, but one that we've seen him make. And I thought that Jeff Hafley, has done a really good job there as the defensive coordinator in Green Bay. You talk about the pressure that he kind of game planned and schemed and generated. I thought on the back end, they mixed things up a ton. I mean, they were kind of half and half with single high and two deep safety looks. And a lot of times on those two deep safety looks, that one safety would just kind of immediately, drop another 10 yards just to kind of keep a lid on, Tank and Stephon Diggs from kind of getting behind everybody and, limiting those explosive plays. Thought they did a really good job on that front. So that was a defensive clinic right there on one of the best offensive teams in football.
Yeah, and look, offensively, Green Bay, Jordan Love he's kind of been running up numbers on both sides of the scoreboard, man. He's been making big plays. He's collecting touchdowns. You see it on the screen there, 2+ pass TDs, 11 consecutive games, which is the longest active streak, including the playoffs. So he's been running up, big plays, points, but man, he's got to do a better job protecting the football. As you start getting into these big games and get into the postseason, he's got to be a little more cautious there. Really the only negative on the Green Bay side of things. Anything you want to add there before we jump over to the next game?
Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought that up. It's just the interception number's way too high for a guy that has missed 2 games already this year. So if they limit that, I mean, my goodness. I mean, he's already breaking Aaron Rodgers records for touchdowns consecutively in games going back to last year. So pretty dang impressive so far if they can keep limiting those turnovers.
All right, let's get to KC San Francisco, maybe the most anticipated games because of the Super Bowl connection there. This was my takeaway, and then I'll get your thoughts, and we'll go from there. But when we've talked about defensive dominant teams that have an offense that gives you just enough, I think back over like the last decade. I think of the Baltimore Ravens. That'd be how they've been described. I think of the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's been used to describe them. I think the Tennessee Titans, when their playoff runs that they've had, dominant defense, can run the ball a little bit, just timely plays offensively. Is it time that we just start calling the Chiefs what they are? I mean, this is a defensive football team that's carrying them. I mean, that's dominating on the defensive side of the ball with an offense that's just kind of gives you enough, and a quarterback who is still at those key clutch moments can make those 2-3 plays you got to make, which Mahomes does. It just is this is the formula of those defensive dominant teams. Like, this is who the Chiefs are at this point in time.
And hold on, before I dig into what I was looking at here, I mean, what did you think of those two runs from Mahomes? Like the touchdown run, right? Where
I've seen it. I've seen this. I've seen this in games against the Chargers in the past. It's here's the thing, because my first thought is, well, somebody's going to drill him on the sideline, because he's done this several times now where he kind of, he's kind of faking like he's going to go out of bounds, and defenders know that they're not even worried about the penalty, right? They're worried about the dang fine that's going to be coming out of, for that. And so you get mad and say, okay, well, eventually he's going to get his block knocked off. And then I'm like, I don't know if I'm a defensive player, if I'm going to get 15 yards and I'm going to get an envelope in my locker. I don't know. I don't like it. I think it's kind of poor form, but that's where the rules are, and he's definitely taken advantage of it with those tightrope moves.
You want a little saucy nug on Mahomes?
Oh yeah. Give me. What do we got here? A little presented by Wendy's.
I want in here to start. Let's get saucy nugs of the week presented by Wendy's. And I've got this one here for you, and this comes courtesy of our buddy Tony in research last night when I was on Game Day Final. Flipped this one to me. Patrick Mahomes had the lowest passer rating of his career in Week 7, 44.4, and the Chiefs beat the defending NFC champions by double digits on the road.
Yeah,
if that doesn't say something about the defense you're talking about, I don't know what does right there. Just incredible. And like it does kind of bring back some visions of Peyton Manning in 2015, right? I mean, not that Mahomes is super limited like Manning was at that point, but the offense,
Peyton wasn't capable, at that time. Mahomes,
but I mean, you're talking about defense carrying you at this point, to some of these incredible wins. It does kind of feel a little bit like that. But I did also look at Purdy's interceptions. I know you did as well. We could probably collaborate on this here a little bit. I thought that first one, he was getting a little bit of pressure, but he didn't see that deep safety.
No, he didn't see him.
Man, that deep safety saw him from the jump. I mean, it was Justin Reed, had that thing rolling like he was watching Purdy's eyes from the get-go. Obviously, you want that one back. Number 2, this one was kind of interesting. You watch this one, this Ronnie Bell right here. I couldn't figure out whether he thought Ronnie was going deeper or not, because that was way overthrown, right? I mean, that was like 5 yards overthrown. And when you kind of look at it, Bell is running kind of like an angle out route, right? And he gets contact, but then pushes up even further through the contact, knowing he's got to get a little bit deeper, go past the sticks to get the first down, and it's still overthrown by 5 yards. So I don't know if that was just bad throw or what. And then obviously the third one, you gotta eat it and take the points down by the goal line. You can't give it up down there.
Yeah, you got hit. The other number I looked up with this stat from this game and this season, I was curious because it just looks like San Francisco's in the gun with a lot more pure drop back than just play action. If you just look at the play action numbers, it is about 3% down from what it was last year. So I think last year maybe they were 23%. I believe somewhere around there in play action. This year, it's about 20% of play action. So it's different. It's definitely less. It wasn't as demonstrative as maybe I thought it would have been, but it just looks different when you watch them, versus the nightmare of them being under center and having to deal with everything off that with that offense with boots and crossers and really what Kyle Shanahan's done for forever. It's a different formula he's using.
Yeah, and look, it's a different situation now, clearly, and it just feels like when there's no Debo, which there really wasn't in this game, as he had the illness, and then Brandon Ayuk goes down with what they fear is an ACL, so likely ending his season if that that ends up being confirmed, and then with McCaffrey out, it's just like it's hard to kind of find that magic when you have 3 elite players out of the ball game at the skill positions. Like, can you is it truly just plug and play at that point, or are you trying to facilitate different ways to attack, like you're talking about there, DJ? You just can't do it the way you've been accustomed to when you have those type of players out, and especially with McCaffrey out for as long as he's been out.
Yeah.
They're like the anti-Lions. I said this on Game Day Final last night, where the Lions could beat you any way they want at this point. Like the 49ers are just running out of answers.
Yeah, no, it's true. It doesn't. It's just literally it's just a shell of what they've
Yeah.
been in terms of all the guys they have out there. So I guess it's probably on us to lower our expectations. But you do look at the schedule, man, they've got some work to do. They are 3-4, and they're going to have to fight, not to win the division or to be a number one seed. They're going to have to fight to get into the tournament with the way this thing's shaking up right now. So I'm interested to see what happens there in San Francisco. Let's sneak another game in here before we take a little break. Philly and the Giants. This was let me give you a little bonus saucy nug here because this one caught
What a
my
saucy
attention.
nug.
Yeah, we're gonna go with we'll double up here on the saucy nug. Saquon Barkley, 761 scrimmage yards this season, the most by a player in his first 6 games with a team since drumroll Saquon Barkley's first 6 games with the Giants as a rookie in 2018. We had 811 scrimmage yards. Long story short, Saquon Barkley is very good. He has been an excellent signing there for the Philadelphia Eagles, and man, it's hard to look at it from the Giants side of things and say how this benefited them deciding to turn the page. And really, when you look at the money, it wasn't crazy money that he got from the Philadelphia Eagles.
No, I mean, it ended up being, what was it, like essentially $1 million or $2 million average annual value to what they were talking about. I know that's not the whole way to cut the pie up on that, but yeah, I mean, it's tough. And in a game like this, it was even harder. I mean, watching him go for 176 yards, 187 total yards. So, another bonus saucy nug here for you. I mean, Saquon now, in the last 10 years, has the most rushing yards against the Giants and the most rushing yards for the Giants over a 10,
Nice.
10-year period. I mean, I can't imagine the feeling, that John Mara had just sitting there watching Barkley run up and down. No, look, they got more problems than that. The Giants do, right? On offense, I don't know what to make of what's going on over there. I mean, like Andrew Thomas going down for the season is about, the straw that breaks the camel's
That's
back
a tough one. That's a tough one with Azuda at left tackle right now. It's tough.
Yeah, and I mean that's kind of been an unfortunate piece of Andrew Thomas's career arc, right? I mean he struggled early in his career and then kind of quickly established himself as one of the better tackles in football, and now we've got these injuries that you're dealing with, and Daniel Jones gets pulled from the game. Drew Lock comes in. Where do you go from here? What do you do now? Malik Neighbors minimal impact in the game. Beach, I don't. Oh man, it's getting late early there in New York.
Yeah, the only other thing that I will add is that if you've looked at the Philadelphia Eagles over the last several years, they're at their best when they are led by their pass rush. And a little bit of a slow start.
Had it today.
8 sacks in this game, 5 sacks last week. They found their footing a little bit here along that front and seeing a lot of different guys win. And you have Jalen Carter inside that's getting you 2 sacks. Nakobe Dean, I'm going to dust off that scouting report here later in the week as we can dig into him. He had 2 sacks. So we're seeing those Georgia Bulldogs there with the Eagles starting to play good football. And also you had Nolan Smith get one for the second week in a row off the edge, who's been very disruptive. He's coming into his own a little bit there too. So that's when the Eagles are who they are. And I think in the back end too, you've got those 2 rookies. Cooper DeJean's playing well. Quinyon Mitchell's playing well. So they're starting to see after kind of a frustrating start to the year, you look up, they're 4-2. It's going to be an interesting race there in that division. Washington playing the way they're playing, the Cowboys being the mystery team that they are. It's going to be an interesting ride there. All right, it's time for Cruising to Victory presented by Royal Caribbean. And the Pittsburgh Steelers had an enjoyable cruise. I would say it was a party cruise last night after they took care of the New York Jets. All the talk, all of the conversation is Devontae Adams, and he's going to fix everything that's wrong with the New York Jets. They score 15 points. That does not happen. We'll get to the Jets side of things here in a minute. But let's start first of all. Russell Wilson, that was not a popular decision, maybe nationally, maybe even locally as well. I'll get into my thoughts on it in a second here, Rhett, but just your thoughts on the decision that was made to go to Russell Wilson and what we saw in his first crack at with the Steelers.
I was watching that one with Maurice Jones-Drew as we were getting ready for Game Day Final on NFL Network, and it wasn't like the prettiest of games in a first half for the Steelers offense. Like there were some throws where you're like, ooh, is that much better than Justin Fields? But then, boy, I felt like in the second half they really found a rhythm there, and I think it started when Russ started giving George Pickens a shot to go make plays down the field, up in the air. I mean, this one was pretty fortuitous here. It's off the defender's arm, and he ends up going to grab it, makes plays for him, but. I mean, like getting Pickens engaged like that is one of the reasons you turn to Russell Wilson. They were talking about that on the broadcast too. I mean, look at that throw and catch by Pat Fryermuth down there. I mean, guys were making big plays again for the Steelers, something in the past game that we just felt like you hadn't seen. And then, what they did, I felt like it was critical. Into the third quarter, into the fourth quarter, you get the touchdown to Van Jefferson, and then you get Russell sneaking it in as well. So one through the air, one on the ground. They built a two-score lead in the second half as they went into the fourth quarter, and then were able to just play Pittsburgh football, which was handed off to Najee Harris, who looked invigorated in this game by blocking kicks. How awesome was that scene with their special teams coordinator down there as well? And then Jaylen Warren too had a couple of big runs. Like that's how Pittsburgh wants to win, right? And it felt like Russell gave them that opportunity. And how about this? They basically doubled up the Jets in yards per play in this game. Like the Steelers offense doubled up the Jets with Davante Adams and everybody and Aaron Rodgers in yards per play. They were more explosive.
That's a saucy nug. You didn't tease it as such, but that's definitely a saucy nug. That's a saucy nug. I got a lot of thoughts on this one. So let's start first of all here, Mike Tomlin and the decision. I said this in the week if you missed it, but my theory on that was if we're going to laud all these coaches who use this phrase, it's about the process. It's not about results. And you hear Nick Saban say it. We've heard Belichick say it. You've heard every coach utter that phrase. Normally it's said when you lose a football game. You say, hey, you know what? We're not going to focus on the result that we lost. The process was right, how we went about it, how we prepared. The result wasn't there, but the process. Well, that should also be the case if you're winning games and you look and find flaws in the process. And I think that's what Mike Tomlin did. He looked at it and said, we're missing opportunities in the pass game. Yes, we're winning football games, but I am focused on the play in the process, not the result in terms of a win or a loss. And that's why he had the conviction to say we need more. And maybe Russ can't give us more, but we're going to find out. We're going to put him out there and find out if he can take this to another level and give guys opportunities to make plays. So I applaud Mike Tomlin on that. Did so before the game, and I'll do so after the game. I thought that was the right move. A couple other thoughts. You talked about how they're playing physical, running the ball, getting the tight ends involved with Freiermuth and with Washington, and then big shot opportunities down the field. And Rhett, this is the one that I was thinking of watching this game. I'm watching on the other side, Mike Williams, who's been, publicly embarrassed by Aaron Rodgers after a game. You go out and you get Davante Adams, so he falls further down the pecking order. He didn't practice early in the week, which I don't know what was going on there, but it sounds like obviously he'd have a legitimate reason to not want to be a New York Jet. And if the Jets are interested in trading him, I'm sitting here watching this ball game going, I was around Mike Williams with the Chargers his whole career. What Mike Williams does well is what Russell Wilson was giving George Pickens opportunities to do in that game. If you're going to trade Mike Williams, and I'm Omar Khan, I'm calling as a Pittsburgh Steeler and saying, hey, come on back over here. Saw you with a nice catch on a fourth down, but we will utilize you in what you do. We'll put you opposite of George Pickens. And now you talk about a basketball team with those tight ends. If you put Mike Williams out there with George Pickens and with a quarterback who wants to give guys chances down the field, tell me I'm not crazy here for thinking that.
You're not crazy. And you know what it's a shame he got injured early in the season, but Roman Wilson, I felt like if you get those big dudes out there and you let Roman work in the slot too, the rookie, man, that'd be a lot of fun. As well. I love that idea. As long as you're continuing to feed, George Pickens, I feel like the targets have to stay that way for him to be engaged. And he was against the Jets.
You know who played well in this game too for the Steelers? Peyton Wilson, the linebacker, led him in tackles as a rookie. He was a steal with the 97th pick. He was in my top 50. Bishop. It was really just Beanie Bishop, by the way. I think Beanie Bishop has already passed Beanie Wells as the best beanie in NFL history just off that off that one game.
That
And then
game was
Mason
awesome.
McCormick, he was awesome.
Yeah.
Mason McCormick starting up front along the offensive line. Keep in mind, once they get to the bye and get out of the bye, they're going to get Troy Fautanu, their first round pick, back. They'll eventually get Zach Frazier, who was playing awesome as their center. That is a heck of a draft class. And then you just throw Beanie in there as a little. He's a bonus Beanie for being an undrafted free agent. What they got out of him, someone we saw at the Big 12 Combine who was running in the 4.3s. It was one,
He had the best 40-yard dash there, if I recall.
yeah, he was awesome.
The fastest 40.
That's a heck of a class. And on the previous year, we're seeing Washington make plays. You're seeing Broderick Jones out there moving people in their run game. That's two really good drafts. It kind of changed this kind of whole nucleus of the Pittsburgh Steelers. They've got their stars. You've got Watt, who's a star. Fitzpatrick's a star. But man, they've built a lot of the guts of this team in the last two drafts.
And the way that they've remade that offensive line, I think, we talk about teams that have done that in the past. I feel like the Chiefs have had to do it like 3 different times in the Mahomes era. Bengals kind of started to do it as well with Burrow. But yeah, what the Steelers have done here, because it got bad for a while, right? I mean, shoot, we were talking 3 years ago, like, whoa, what happened here, right? With Pittsburgh, we've obviously been known for having, a solid group up front, and they've done a terrific job. Omar Khan has, especially here in these last 2 years.
Quickly on the other side of things, the Jets. I had my doubts of whether or not this would pay dividends immediately. I thought they'd be a little bit more on the same page than maybe they would have been. And look, I think that'll get better offensively for them. But man, Aaron Rodgers said something after the game where he said he didn't like the energy, and I'm like, I thought the body language is just brutal. It's just like if they don't get going, and that he's the face of the team. It's just, man, it is a hang your head downer body language that you're getting from the New York Jets. And then Garrett Wilson, after the ball clanks off his chest, his body language was not good. It's just the energy, the overall energy from that side right now, not great. And defensively, I know they're missing pieces, but they're not playing as well on that side of the ball either.
I thought the energy thing was a huge kind of red flag. As he talked about,
it comes through the television. It just comes right through the TV.
He's like, I live for these types of games, right? You're the only game in town. Everybody's watching. You want to be at your best, and for the energy to be flat in a game like that, yeah, that does say a little bit of something there about what the Jets are dealing with right now. Hopefully they can get this thing rolling. They got a chance to go do it this week. I believe they're up in New England to battle the Patriots in an AFC East matchup.
Yeah.
So
See what happens there. Tennessee, Buffalo, Rhett, what was your takeaway in that one?
Look, Tennessee's limited offensively. I think that's just kind of the best way to put it, from the quarterback spot, with Will Levis out and or ineffective, and with some bad decisions that kind of keep popping up even when he's in there. And so, what I see then on the Bills side of things was Ray Davis is a stud.
Count me in.
He only had 5.
Count me in.
I mean, Deej, he had 5 carries in this game. But man, he just looks like he's got so much juice, especially between the tackles. Like he comes right off his offensive lineman. Like there's no wasted movements. There's no wasted yards in the way that he runs. Like, so efficient with his cuts. He's got great physicality and balance when he's getting contacted. Man, I feel like you got to give him more carries. I'm not saying that James Cook has done anything wrong here at this point, but I feel like Ray Davis has earned himself a right to get more than what the Bills, have been giving him. And I think they got to probably figure that out now that both of them, this is kind of the first game where they've really worked both of them in after Cook was out last week. So I think that's a huge deal for the Bills going forward. And then, Amari Cooper, is trying to figure out what route he's running, still ends up catching a touchdown pass. So, I mean, things are coming up aces for Josh Allen here.
Yes. Let me touch on Ray Davis quickly. Ray Davis, I'm going to give you the teeter-totter analogy, Rhett. That's like, as the weather goes down, the carry should go up. That's the teeter-totter we need here with Ray Davis as we get later into the year. I'm okay if you want to be a little bit, sparing with how you're giving him touches. Let's get through the year, but I'm telling you, as we get into the colder months, especially up in Buffalo, he's built for that. He is a perfect fit. He's better than Zach Moss, and Zach Moss we saw run up there in that system and have some success. So I'm a Ray Davis fan there. I went and watched Keon Coleman, his targets and catches because he had a big day, some big plays with the rookie out there. Really, two things: broken tackles, broken play. That's where his yards came from. Has a slant, spins out of a tackle and goes, and then you just have him reacting with Josh Allen scrambling around and getting his vision and getting a big play that way. So good to see there though for Keon Coleman and a Buffalo team with Gregory Rousseau off the edge. We both watched his pressures. We were talking about that this morning off air, and that's someone who just unique with his length and versatility, inside outside, can win on a pure rush. You can use him on games. He can power you. Who was it? Petit Freer. He put on
I think
skates.
it was Petit Frere. Yeah. With
Yeah.
one arm.
So the pressures, I think PFF had him for like 11 pressures. A couple of those may be a little bit generous, but overall very disruptive. He's just turned into a really good football player.
And he was one of our favorite Path of the Draft interviews. You remember how inquisitive he was to us?
Oh yeah, he loved pass rush.
He just wanted to like just soak everything up, and I love that. I love getting to know him a little bit, and I think when Jalen Duncan went out for Tennessee and Petit Frere went in there, Rousseau really started to feast. So it's great to know the Bills can kind of have one of those dominant type of dudes off the edge for that Sean McDermott defense. So yeah, the Bills are in good shape at this point at 5.
All right, let's rip through some more of these. Don't need to take as long here. Seattle, Atlanta, not the most aesthetically pleasing game. I guess if you're a Seahawks fan, it was fun to watch, but not a very competitive game there.
No, and look, I think for Seattle, what this kind of continues to prove for you is Kenneth Walker is kind of the engine to me that makes this offense go. The way that he runs the football, and you can obviously see it certainly helps when you've got just a hole, a 3-yard size hole there. And then watch what he does in the pass game here. Watch this catch. How many running backs go up and make that type of adjustment to a ball in a contested catch with a defender close in coverage? I just think he's got such a unique style of running the football. He's got great balance there too. And he to me really opens things up for Seattle. I mean, we saw Gino, be a little bit more judicious with the football in this game, probably as a result of that. I think there's just so many options when Kenneth Walker's healthy and rolling for the Seahawks offense.
Yeah, no, and I think they have a chance to be a really balanced team because they can kind of do what the game dictates. If they need to run the ball, they can run it. If they find themselves in a shootout, Gino, with the weapons they have on the outside, he can play in that type of a game. So I know they're coming off a little bit of a skid here with the 3-game losing streak, but I do feel good about the high-end talent that they do have there in Seattle. And I think defensively, it's strength in numbers. They just have a lot of really, really good young players. You saw a scoop and score in this game. So they're doing some good things there in Seattle with the way they're continuing to build out that roster. In Atlanta, it was a clunker, but they're still sitting here at 4-3. No reason to panic. That division is still within their reach. So we'll see what happens going forward with them. Let's get to Washington and their game over Carolina, which, let's be generous and call it a game. Carolina, non-competitive. I said it after I saw them live, I believe it was week 2 against the Chargers. I said they will have the first pick in the draft. Now, some other teams are giving them the run for their money with how bad Tennessee has been and what they look like there. And New England's not great either. But I still think talent-wise, I think this is it's the most talent-starved roster, especially with Derek Brown not out there, to the point where Jaden Daniels can get hurt early in this ball game. Marcus Mariota goes in, and it's a 40-burger.
Yeah, that did not seeing that piece of it, I think is all the more glaring. And I know Carolina has said they're going to stick with Andy Dalton as the starter for right now. I mean, like he's been the post Cincinnati Bengals Andy Dalton since the week 1 start, where he helped, or not the week 1 start, since his first start, where he helped the Panthers engineer their first and only win of the season. So things are kind of coming back down to the mean, it feels like, on that side of things. I wonder if Bryce Young is somewhere on the horizon here once again, or does it even matter at this point when you're talking about the roster and the dearth of talent there? But for the Commanders, I think that offense is one of the biggest, maybe positive developments, if not surprises, that we've seen thus far, maybe even this season. They play really well together. Brian Robinson went over 100 in this game. Physical presence on the ground, which obviously helps Mariota's cause. Look at this throw he made on the run right here to Zach Ertz. I mean, that was some kind of vintage Mariota stuff right there. And what it, it's kind of paid off, for Adam Peters and for Washington to have a veteran like Mariota available to come in that can kind of do some of the things that you like from Jaden Daniels with the mobility. So hopefully it's not an extended absence for Daniels. I know Dan Quinn said today, DJ, was week to week on that rib injury.
Yeah, hopefully it's not too much longer. Want to definitely see him and Caleb square up here. That's going to be a fun ball game. This is the last thought on this game, and we'll move on. So we don't need to talk much more about it. It was an ugly ball game. Last year, these two teams finished 2 games apart in the standings. I mean, they might as well be oceans apart with where those two franchises are right now. You think about where Washington is, not just the record 5-2 versus 1-6, but just, man, one has got so much momentum and so much going for them there with a new coaching staff and nailing the quarterback there, Jaden Daniels. So interesting to see how quickly it can take you off of one path and put you on another one. Those two teams were riding next to each other, and they are not next to each other any longer.
No, not at all. And it kind of makes me wonder, like, what are they going to do with Jonathan Brooks? Like, I know they opened the practice window on him, and I know you'd love to see what he's got here, but dang, a
Make
season
sure he's
like
fully
this,
healthy. No sacrificial lambs. All right. Speaking of a bad football team, but one with some hope, New England, they are over there in London playing against Bucky's Jags. They lose 32-16. It looks ugly, but I'm telling you, there's a lot of good to take out of that game on their side of things before we get to the Jags. Drake May's making plays, big time throws down the field. He's using his legs. He's going to be really, really good, man. What I've seen from him, I think it was determined like, hey, okay, he's ready. We can put him out there, even though we're not very good, and he'll be able to survive. He's doing more than surviving. He's playing well, and I'm excited about his future there. I don't know who else is going to be there. From a coaching staff standpoint, what that looks like off into the future, probably not great when Bill Belichick is blasting Gerard Mayo's comments about the toughness of the team, and that's kind of a weird situation there with your former coach there, but. Right side of things, starting there with the Patriots, Drake May is going to be really good.
Yeah, and look, I think that's, if you're a Patriots fan, that's what you kind of have to hang on to here at this point, right? I mean, it's like, let's find the good and use it to project how things can get better in the future, and that's kind of where you're at for a 1-win football team. On the flip side, for the Jaguars, you want to talk about toughness there, with those comments from Gerard Mayo and Belichick, but. Toughness is what Tank Bigsby brings to the Jaguars, and it feels like that's something that they really needed to kind of get out of this slump that they've been on since early in the season. So, for me, seeing Tank go for over 100, couple of touchdowns, that physical presence that he brings, it makes me kind of curious what this thing's going to look like when Travis Etienne gets healthy. Because, Bigsby needs carries. I don't feel like he's one of those dudes and one of those backs, that gets stronger as the game goes on. I'm excited to see, how this offense kind of maybe shifts and morphs, with a player like Bigsby in the backfield.
Let me give you one Patriots saucy nug, and I'll get to the Jags. The New England Patriots have lost 6 straight games, as you can see here on the screen, for the first time since 1993. To put that into context, I had braces. I was a freshman in high school, and just playing a mean point guard out there, just trying not to get elbowed in the face, because it really did give you a bloody lip there when you got those braces on there. Got to put the wax. You got to put the wax over the braces so it doesn't stick to your lip. But that's what was going on in my life the last time the Patriots lost 6 straight games. So that's a reference point for you there. Not great. On the Jags side of things, BTJ was great. Bigsby was great. So there's still some good young pieces there. And it was nice to see Trevor just kind of exhale a little bit. It was definitely the game that he needed. Hopefully they can build off that going forward, because they lose that game, it's a different conversation. And who knows, who's there and who's not there in the coming weeks. All right, let's get one more in here before we take a pause here. The Raiders, the Rams. Ugly. Is that a way to put it? Unfortunately, Aiden O'Connell goes down with thumb injury. He's going to be down. The Rams kind of uglied their way to a win. It was
credit their defense. right? Let's credit the Rams defense. That's a young group right there, with all the draft picks that they've spent on that side of the ball over the last few years and hit on a majority of those. And I think Kobe Durant is one that maybe we forget about a little bit because he was outstanding in this game. Um, and I know you watched a lot of Brock Bowers, what he did for the Raiders in this game, which was really good once he was targeted
Mhm.
14 times. DJ,
Yeah.
I'll let you get to that. But on one of those 3rd and 5s, it was Kobe Durant in coverage down in the red zone on the Raiders' first possession. And it's Durant that had great coverage on him, makes a great play on the football, knocks it away, forces the Raiders to kick a field goal. So I'm going to say that Kobe helped save 4 points there for the Rams because that's usually a completion when it goes to Bowers. So they keep the touchdown off the board, make him kick a field goal. He then has an interception while also in coverage on Bowers, which led to 7 points for the Rams offense. So I'm going to chalk up now 11 points in Kobe Durant's corner in this game. Then he had a strip sack on the Raiders' next offensive possession that was scooped and scored by Cam Curl. So I'm going to say that Kobe Durant actually helped, in a way, in some bad math, outscore the Raiders in this game, helping account for about 18 points.
I'll give you positives on the Raiders. Defensively, they gave up 259 yards, which is nothing. 2 of 10, the Rams were on 3rd down. They were excellent in that regard. Their defense really nothing to be ashamed of with how they played and competed. And you mentioned it. I did went back and watched all the targets there for Brock Bowers. I said it when I was there in training camp. I know Devontae Adams is here. He will be the best player on their offense. Obviously, Devontae Adams has since moved on. It's obvious, clear now. He is their best player on offense, and just you can't get him enough targets. Saucy Nug, by the way, I can give you a Brock Bowers Saucy Nug. I think we might be setting the record for Saucy Nugs today. Let's see here.
Is something about me having him on our rookie fantasy team, or no?
Oh, did you really? That's an unfortunate nug. Here's a saucy nug. 47 receptions this season. Only Puka Nacua with 58 and Saquon Barkley with 49 have more through their first 7 games in NFL history. So good news there. Let's give the
Let's
Raiders a little
go.
good news.
Okay, silver and
It's a good
black.
way. That's a good way to end that discussion there. Hey, Raiders. It doesn't look pretty. It doesn't look pretty offensively, but we've got a couple good young players, and there is some positive. Good defense, good Bowers. All right, Rhett, we had some news come out of that Cleveland game. Deshaun Watson goes down, Achilles injury. Everything was, man, I'm not going to get into everything that was said after the game. I know a bunch of his teammates came to his defense. I know some people love that. Some people didn't love that. It's unfortunate. You don't want to see anybody get hurt out there. You can clearly see the thing pop as someone who's torn his Achilles. That's what it looks like. So, just a tough situation there. But an even tougher situation for where the Browns are. They're 1-6 right now. I'll start with this question before we get to the Bengals. For sale sign for players. I know, Myles Garrett's name's been floated around there. I don't know that they would ever trade him, but I don't have any issue with teams trying to pry him out of there.
No. I mean, again, I think Zadarius Smith is one to watch too. As a guy that maybe not quite as valuable as Myles Garrett is to that franchise, so maybe a bit more expendable there. But yeah, it's a tough watch right now in Cleveland, and I thought it felt good to see Nick Chubb get back into the end zone. Right, first game in almost 400 days after that devastating knee injury week 2 last year. He didn't have a terrifically, prolific day on the ground, but seeing him get back into the end zone and get back healthy, maybe that's something that'll really help. But I assume Jameis Winston moving forward, although he was the emergency quarterback in this game, which I thought was interesting in DTR. Dorian Thompson-Robinson was actually at QB2. He actually came in first, then got injured. So, I mean, they're going to have to sign a quarterback here at some point. There's so much that's going wrong right now in Cleveland. And for Cincinnati, a game they really needed, right? And Trey Hendrickson, like as we're talking about edge rushers, like that dude is such a baller. I mean, he is so good. He is so athletic. Like he's so athletic. Like he's sometimes able to manipulate his body, like from pile driving a quarterback into the ground. He even got called on one. I thought he did a fantastic job of trying to limit himself from falling onto the quarterback. He's got one of the best combinations, I think, DJ, of speed and power. In the league off the edge. Like he's a special dude.
Yeah, and polish, speed, power, and polish. He just knows what he's doing. He's a craftsman with using his hands there as a pass rusher. The Bengals feel like a team that we're going to wake up and we're going to look and they're going to be like 10-5, at one point in time. We're like, oh man, they got themselves into a pretty good position here. They start off slow. It's their thing. It's what they do. But they're finding their way here, finding ways to win ball games, and just one game under 500 at this point in time. Miami, Indy. This was again, I want to trash this weekend of football. Man, there was a couple really good games. We looked at Detroit, Minnesota, Houston, Green Bay, KC, San Francisco, all interesting games. There were some clunkers. This was a clunker. Going back through and watching Anthony Richardson in a winning performance, 10 of 24, buck 29 through the air. Man, didn't love what I saw there. Just the vision, I question, pushing balls into traffic, late on throws. There was some flashes. You see a couple of those big time throws that he makes, but on the whole, not what I wanted to see there in terms of growth with Anthony Richardson. Let's be patient. I know he's raw. They found a way to win a ball game. Give the Colts credit for that. Give their defense credit against a Miami Dolphins team that it sounds like is going to get Tua back here. But man, that was not an aesthetically pleasing tape to watch.
I mean, like we got to get Anthony Richardson to a point where he can, he hasn't played 6 games in a row yet as a pro.
Yeah.
Like we got to find some time to, stay consistently in the lineup here and see what that brings us. And in a game where they're without Jonathan Taylor as well, that was not a good recipe, but they found a way to win. So credit them for that. They ran Anthony coming off the oblique injury 8 times in this game for 56 yards, and he actually had a big third down conversion to kind of help salt away the clock at the end. So kind of made some plays when they needed to at the end, but they're going to need a lot more to contend, with the Texans and company in the AFC, or in their own division there in the AFC.
Yeah. Yeah, no question. We got a couple games coming up tonight. I will be here in Phoenix for Chargers Cardinals, but before that, we have the Ravens and the Bucks here. Just give me one thought there. What are you looking forward to in this game? What decides this game?
Yeah, look, I want to see Baker Mayfield, kind of execute against this defense, and the pressure that they can put on you from the interior, which we talked about last week, right, with Matabike and company, and then obviously with the crew on the edge, getting after you as well. And what kind of effect does Kyle Hamilton have in this game? And then like again for the Buccaneers offense, what happens on the ground in this game, right? Does Sean Tucker have it in him again? Do we see more, Bucky Irving rocking and rolling here? I just want to see what this Bucs offense can do against a really good Ravens defense here.
Yeah, and look, you look at the Ravens defense, 59 yards a game given up on the ground. So you've got Baker Mayfield, who's been hot this year. I'm just curious if this is one of those games where you just come out there and say, we're not even going to try to run the football. We're going to come out here and we're going to let Baker, we're going to let Baker throw it 55 times in this ball game, and then we'll see if on the other side of things, if the Ravens get their ground game going. But it's a great matchup. It's a great doubleheader. The one I'll be at here, Cardinals, Chargers. Chargers beat up at wide receiver, but they do have a healthy offensive line. We saw that last week against Denver, just having Slater and Alt back out there. Going back through that tape, Rashawn Slater is really, really good. And I know he's missed some time with injury last year. Man, when he's healthy and out there, I don't know there's anybody better than him with what he does in the run game. He's an instant anchor in pass protection. He's playing great. So you've got a healthy offensive line. You got some receivers down. I expect them to come out and run the football. On the other side with the Arizona Cardinals, it's a box of chocolates, man. It is a Forrest Gump team. You watch one tape one week and you get excited about what they do against the 49ers, and then you pop on the tape against the Packers and you're like, this team is lost. So it's a tricky team to figure out. But having Marvin Harrison Jr. back and healthy, looking forward to seeing him and Kyler Murray on the same field at the same time. I gave Coach Harbaugh my comp for Kyler Murray, by the way, Rhett. I said, I said he looks like the Roadrunner with a football, and I thought that would be kind of Roadrunner. I can imagine Jim maybe growing up, maybe watching Roadrunner. Thought that might land. Didn't really land. Didn't really get much reaction on that one. But more literal. I think Coach Harbaugh is a little more literal, not going with me on the comp. So swing and you miss. You take your shots. That one missed.
Hey, sometimes you just gotta keep shooting, bud.
Yeah.
let's see what you got next week. I mean, you're gonna have another opportunity at this thing. I got faith in you.
Yeah.
And look, I think we all, sometimes will give you a little courtesy laugh. But for the most part, like
I
you
needed that
do.
one. I needed that. I needed that. Those courtesy laughs get me by, man. I live. That's like fuel for me. I need the
Oh,
courtesy
I know,
laugh.
I know it,
Gotta
I
have it.
know it.
That's why. Man, that's why I
Uh,
surround myself with good friends like you that give me that
that's
thing.
right. That's right.
Anyways, that
We
was
love you
it was
anyway.
fun. Yeah, I appreciate it. That was fun going through the games today. It'll be fun having Buck back.
Yeah.
I believe he'll be back with us tomorrow as we have our rookie draft and continue to look at the NFL and what's going on. So appreciate you guys hanging with us. We will see you next time right here on Move the Sticks.
Go Hoosiers.